Welcome, everybody, to the LinkedIn for B2B Growth Show. I'm your host, Michelle J. Raymond, and I am welcoming one of my very favorite, equal energy, happy, just always makes me smile, the LinkedIn trainers, Sarah Clay. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Michelle, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. It's pretty early here in the UK, but did I need my alarm? No, because I woke up all excited like a little kid on Christmas Day.
There's nowhere else you would want to be at pre 7 a.m., I'm sure. But here's the thing, I don't know about you, but whenever I go out and about and you say you're at a party or a barbecue or a get together, and then you get into those small talk conversations and someone says, "So what do you do?" And I start going, "Wow, I teach businesses how to grow using LinkedIn." And I'm met with blank stares. And I wanted you on the show so I can have a conversation with someone that loves LinkedIn as much as I do. But do you get those same blank stares?
It's really interesting. So I get two reactions. I get the blank stares. Definitely. They're like, is that a thing? That's one. And the other one, which I got last night, which is obviously the one I prefer, is, I so need you.
We love those ones.
Yeah, definitely. I so need you. Come and talk to me.
And I think the conversations that I'm having a lot right now is people are feeling really overwhelmed by LinkedIn. Like we've got new features coming in, we've got conflicting advice coming from all over the place. So I thought today's podcast episode that we would just I'd pick your brain, ask a few questions, see if we agree, disagree on things, what you're seeing. Maybe your part of the world's a bit different to my part of the world. But yeah, it'd be interesting to get your feedback on a couple of things. Now, what do you think is working really well on LinkedIn at the moment, and maybe what's not working so well on LinkedIn this year? So we know it goes through swings and roundabouts, but what have you found is the best thing for people who want to use LinkedIn to grow their business?
Oh, yeah, really good question. So, what I see working on LinkedIn is storytelling and talking about why we're doing what we're doing, talking about behind the scenes of the company and on personal profiles as well. Such a strong advocate, and I say this so many times in my day that people work with people. People want to know what's going on LinkedIn. And with company pages, particularly, it's so brilliant when you see the CEOs, the CFOs, all the C-suite people on LinkedIn talking about themselves, talking about how they're running the company and what they're doing. I've had a client recently and he's now posting, he brought his daughter down to London and she sat in the board meeting, this little sort of 8-year-old kid, and almost viral because people love all that real human stuff because it's about connecting and building relationships. Wishing your employees happy birthday on LinkedIn shows that you care, shows that you understand your employees, congratulating them and saying, wow, well done, so and so, for achieving targets. Or Jean in accounts has been here 55 years. Hooray. And all of this stuff. And it just shows the company culture that it's such a lovely place to work. So why wouldn't you want to use that company for the services and goods that they have? I love all that content.
I love that, but I feel like last year it kind of slipped and went way too personal for my personal taste. And I'm not part of the "this isn't Facebook" brigade because I like the personal connection side of things. But there was like a whole time where I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. Maybe I'm old, maybe something's going on. But I feel like this year, and we're going to talk about the LinkedIn algorithm a little bit later, so I'll hold on to this. But I feel like this year it's finding a really happy balance, like not too much corporate not too much personal, but somewhere in the middle, I think is where we've landed. But what do you think isn't working so well at the moment on the platform? Are there things that you've noticed or things that might press your buttons? Like what kinds of stuff do you think doesn't work on the platform right now?
Okay, so just dialing back a little bit, yeah, I agree. Sometimes the personal content is just there for the sake of being there. And I think that that doesn't work. As I say, it's about storytelling. And if you're being authentic, and I know it's a very overused word, but if you really are telling the story of the company, telling the story of why you're doing what you're doing, I think that resonates. But that kind of here's me with my cat or whatever, just for the sake of trying to get a huge reach on LinkedIn, that doesn't work. The same old question, what doesn't work on LinkedIn is being salesy and spammy. I spoke at a finance conference 2 days ago, and of course, the next day, my DMs are just full of people saying, "Great to see you, great to meet you," and all of this lovely, really genuinely lovely comments, and right in the middle, you see the first 3 lines. It said, "Hey, Sarah, do you need a new website?" No, I do not need a new have you seen my website? It's actually quite good. Yeah, it needs a few tweaks. Or, "Hello, Sarah, would you like some LinkedIn training?"
Oh, my favorites.
Why? Do your research, do your homework. Don't just use a third party bot. And I still find it amazing because we've been talking about this for years and people are still doing it. Wolfie of Wall Street and Del Boy, you might not know who Del Boy is. He's an English Wolfie, basically. Just don't do it. Just go somewhere else or don't do it at all because it just doesn't work. It really
Mm.
doesn't.
Yeah, I would say those unsolicited messages, now that there's so much automation tools available to people, the number of those, and I think it's not the automation that I'm against, it's the fact that they're trying to blanket a one size fits all template that somebody on those platforms has created and said, this will work. Read the fine print. It says, if you go and join our engagement pod as well, that's the only reason that this is working. And they literally say that as part of the play. Do this, connect the automation, and then go and join the engagement pod. So it's connecting at speed to the wrong people. And then a group of false people are going to go and pretend to cheer you on. And then people are high fiving themselves, going, wow, look at me. I don't have to spend any time on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking, how many relationships are you damaging? How much are you turning what could be a really positive experience into a negative one for people? Not even neutral. I think when you are on the end of these things, I just want to block and block. And I just learned that there's a limit. You can only block 1,400 people like every couple of years or something like that. But I reckon I could block them all.
Yeah, absolutely. But, talking about pods, okay, your post will get a lot of comments and likes and maybe increase the reach. But what's your reason? What's your ROI for being on LinkedIn? Is it to get huge reach of your post, or is it actually to get some business and to build relationships in order to do that? I just don't understand why people would invest in these vanity metrics when at the end of the day, they're not going to get them anywhere. They'll get nothing from it apart from a load of bland comments that don't mean anything from people they don't know.
I have never understood it. I personally, I can understand how people end up in an engagement pod. So for the people listening in that don't know what they are, essentially you pay to be part of a group, and that group and yourself all make a commitment that when somebody posts, you'll all jump in and support it as fast as possible, leave a comment, and they're the ones that it used to be like, great share, well done. And they're add no value to the conversation. They're never interesting comments. They are so bland and so manufactured. And they're coming from people so far out of the industry, probably on the other side of the world, all these random people. And I just can't wrap my head around it. I can understand when you sit and you're starting on the platform and your numbers look so low, and that whole community minded thing that it kind of, that's how they present it. Come and join our community. We'll all support each other to grow. I love that idea, but the actual execution of it, I just don't understand. And I love when people come to me and go, yeah, I accidentally fell into one, and then I realized what was going on, and then I was out of there, which I'm sure you get clients reach out to you like that, that have been through that experience.
And they're frightened to come out of the pod because they know that their engagement on their post will drop dramatically. But you can't stay in those pods, and it's interesting you say so when I run my 6-week program, I have 10 people, and I encourage them all to, when they've posted, post the link to the post in the WhatsApp group, and everybody can go over and give it some love. These are a group of people who are helping each other, nurturing each other, and supporting each other, and genuinely interested in what each other is doing. And I keep saying to them, this is not a pod. Please don't join a pod. This is a group of people who are helping each other, which is a very different thing.
Yeah, and at least there's some kind of common bond between them all, whereas this is just every man for themselves. And yeah, look, I know that there's all kinds of ways that you can go around LinkedIn, and everybody's got their own version of it. But that's just one, no matter how much time has gone on and how many different ways I try and look at it. I'm just like, what you actually have done is sent yourself at speed, 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, of which when you end up wherever it is that you're trying to end up, you actually realize you're in the wrong spot and have to turn around and come back again and restart all over. So you've lost time in the whole process. And I don't think people realize that's what's going on. And so I want to keep this conversation moving because I want to, like I said, pick your brain so that we can help as many people move from overwhelmed by all of the noise that's on the platform, is what I'm going to call it right now, and maybe move into some practical steps. But I want to talk about LinkedIn made an announcement about an algorithm change back in June. Now, I'm going to just read this so that I don't get it wrong. But essentially, long story short, the whole article and podcast episode all related back to algorithm. You know what? We don't want to reward viral. So the pointless selfies last year that went crazy, we know we got it wrong. LinkedIn said, what can we do about this? What do people want? We're listening to people on the platform. And they said, we want to reward knowledge and advice. Now, knowledge and advice is made up of three things. The post speaks to a specific audience, the author is writing on their core subject area, and the post has meaningful comments. Now, I call this the three C's: your community, your content, and your conversations. Now, I am high fiving LinkedIn on this one. Tell me, what were your thoughts when you saw that roll out?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. I was so, very, very, really, really happy to see it and thought this is going to be a game changer. LinkedIn is going to change completely. My feed is going to be very different. But I actually didn't see a great deal of change. And I think for me, I didn't see a great deal of change because I don't engage in that content anyway. And actually, I don't see that stuff in my feed. So I get a lot of clients who come to me and say, my feed is full of rubbish. And I have a look and I go, oh, God, really? Is all that stuff going on LinkedIn? I don't see it because we are, to a much bigger degree than people would think, we are in control of our own feeds. Who we follow, who we connect with, the conversations that we jump into, the content that we engage with. That's what the LinkedIn algorithm will read, and it will send you the stuff that you want by your behavior. When polls, do you remember when polls blew up, 2, 3 years ago, and everybody was using polls? And then you'd get all these grumpy people saying, not grumpy, but making grumpy comments on polls going, oh no, not another poll. You know what you've just done? You've just told the algorithm that you want polls in your feed by commenting on that poll. Because the algorithm doesn't read what you've written, but it reads that you've engaged and you've written. So spend all day watching cat videos and you're going to get cat videos. And it's a bit like turning a tanker. It takes time to change this. But if you consistently do where you want to go, be consistent with who you connect with, who you follow, what content you engage with, your feed will start to be adjusted to what you want. And I think that's the most important thing. So this algorithm change, I didn't really notice a difference in my own feed, but clients did say that theirs was improved. So good for LinkedIn.
I would have to say how I noticed it is for my own personal posts. My numbers of impressions have probably doubled, nearly tripled on posts, which I pretty much write the same similar style over years. My numbers in my audience are roughly the same. I don't try cheap hacks or copywriting tricks or any of that kind of stuff. It's pretty much, I have my style and I stick with it. But my numbers have gone crazy, like noticeably, yeah, doubled or tripled, which I'm going, I've been doing the hard work. I've built my targeted community. I do write content on my topics and don't stray off onto, I haven't been talking about AI in general. I didn't jump on the AI or ChatGPT train. I was just like, you know what? My thing's business growth on LinkedIn. It's all about company pages or how do you use LinkedIn to sell. I've stuck to that. And I've got to say, there was times when I wanted to jump on the AI and ChatGPT train because those numbers that some people were getting, they were just going sailing on by, and I was tempted. I'm not going to lie, I was tempted, but it's been interesting to see that. But now what I've noticed on my personal feed is I went through a stage where I finally got to see people who I really enjoy their content. But now my feed feels a little like bland. It feels a little all same. And so I've been proactively the last couple of weeks reaching out to try and bring new people into my community because I feel like I'm stuck in the echo chamber, as we call it, where you feel like you're just talking to the same people. They're saying the same things back. And yeah, so I've had to be a bit more proactive and really be intentional about who I'm interacting with, like you just said, teach the algorithm what I want to see, what I want to get involved in. And yeah, it's really interesting to see how quickly you can control what you see. It just takes effort. And I call it like probably pruning and planting new seeds because it's spring here and that kind of resonates. Any other tips that you would say? Like, do you jump on board? There's a lot of advice that goes on the platform, number of hashtags, this, that, the other. Are you mindful of algorithm information, or are you just whatevs? I'm doing my thing. I'm building my relationships.
A bit of both. If somebody makes a big claim about the algorithm, this is happening. 3 to 5 hashtags, let's say, for example, which was a big thing for many years. That was research showed or whatever, people's experience showed that between 3 and 5 hashtags works. So I stuck with that. But on the whole, for me, I'm very much about this is about building relationships. This is about adding value to people's lives. And this is about being consistent on the platform, consistent in what I talk about, what I say, when I show up, and just being myself. And that, I think, is the key. I think that's what works. Just be yourself on the platform, add value, be kind. And it does start coming in. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you're out there creating interesting, valuable, relevant content for your audience consistently and engaging in conversations, that to me is the ideal strategy.
Look, and that's exactly what LinkedIn is rewarding. They said knowledge and advice. Everything you've just described there in your own words fits within what they're now suggesting. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out. It will change. That's a guaranteed thing when it comes to LinkedIn, that every year I feel like there's something that changes as the world changes. We got out of COVID, people change, some hybrid working now. Some are like, you know what, we want to get back to the office. And I feel like the platform just reflects that. And I also think that the other thing is the demographics of having such a big percentage of younger users on the platform. So I'm excited to see how 25 to 34-year-olds come to the platform and change things. Now, one of the areas that you and I have spoken about at length in the past and ongoing is our friend, the company pages. Now, it's no secret that these things are probably the hardest part of LinkedIn to make the magic happen. But how do you incorporate LinkedIn company pages with clients into their strategy? Are you approaching things different this year? What are you seeing? I'm just going to put it out there. I think it's getting harder and getting closer and closer to a pay to play platform for businesses. But there's other ways that we can use it. But I'm curious, what things have you tried and what are you seeing working?
I completely agree with the whole company page thing. They are hard. LinkedIn, values personal profiles much better. I do like the way that they're different. And I do like the way that company pages can't bombard personal profiles with their contents and stuff. And I do like that because the power structure is very different between a company page and a personal profile. What I see working is because we're about the people and it's about the people within the company, using the employees in the company to spread the message of the company page. It's an absolute no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Let's post on the company page really high quality, value add, personal as well as businessy content on the page. Getting your employees to build their own profiles, to build their own networks, and taking the content from the company page and posting it on their personal profiles as well as other content. And they're the ones, the employees are going out and building the relationships and bringing them back to the company page. That's the gold on LinkedIn right now.
I think as well, there's an opportunity for company pages for me. I call it the digital library. It's like where your greatest hits are, and
Yeah.
it's quality over quantity. But there's also a thing that I think as page admins, we can go and use the company page. And I don't care how big your company is, it can be a solopreneur for all I care. I've actually used it myself, but use that company page and the brand to reinforce the personal brands of those employees that are out there. So every time they're posting, guess who's commenting? The company page. Guess who's liking that post every single time? And I think it reinforces, hey, we notice what you're doing as an employee. We appreciate it. We're supporting you. We're cheering you on. And when you're starting out on LinkedIn, all those things matter. And knowing that someone else noticed what you're doing, it's a team sport as far as I'm concerned when it comes to LinkedIn. That's my new kind of thing that I'm building up into my new website, is that you can't just ignore one part. Like, you can't just ignore the brand, because if your people leave, you're in big trouble. You can't just put all your eggs in the personal brand basket, like I said, with turnover. But also the company page, you can't put all your eggs in that one because reach is so tricky at the moment. So it's finding that right balance. And someone asked me the other day, and I'd love to hear your answer. How much time do you spend into a company page versus personal? Now, I'll leave it at that because that's all the information that I had. But what would you say if someone asked you that?
Ooh, good one. The company page is, as you say, I call it like a mini website, if you like. All the information's there. And because you've got the tabs at the top, which I know don't work in the same way as they did because the algorithm changes, but they are still there. So it's very easy for people to access old content that's been sitting there. You can go through the videos tab and videos in a kind of similar way to YouTube in a way or a website. So having that sort of organized structure of a company page, I think makes the company page content much more accessible, but using, as I say, using the content going backwards and forwards between the employees and the personal profiles, I think is a really valuable thing. But you've got to have the right content on the company page in the first place. And it depends how many employees you've got and what you want to achieve and what their resources are. And people say, "Well, how often should I spend on LinkedIn?" How often can you spend on LinkedIn? If you can spend 20 minutes every day on LinkedIn, that's great. And if even if you've got a small company of, say, there's only 5 of you out there or 3 of you on LinkedIn for 20 minutes a day, that's an hour a day that the company is showing its face on LinkedIn. But it's really important that people go back to the company page and find something interesting, valuable, value add there. So it's both are really important. So yeah, time wise, I always say to employees, start with 20 minutes a day. And if you can grow that, then great. But if you say you have to be on your personal profile for an hour a day, obviously no company has jurisdiction over personal profiles anyway. But starting like that, it's like going to the gym. You sign up in January. I'm going to go every single day. And up you go and you do your workout for an hour and then you get home and you go, I'm never doing that again. And by January the 12th, you're done. But start slowly and building it up and be realistic with your expectations. And I think that's the call on the personal profiles, but you've got to have the company page content going out regularly and consistently.
Yeah, it's how long's a piece of string? What are the business goals? What are the resources? It's completely different if you've got an established marketing team that's handling one part and people that are already active on the platform versus a solopreneur that's like juggling everything in the business, going, how do I make a company page and a personal profile work? And it's about finding that balance. Like I've got some clients I work with. I just do company page management. Not one employee is on the platform. It is never going to be any other way. It doesn't matter how many times I say, look, we could do this and that. What works for their business right now, and this has been a few years now, is that they're just like, keep that company page ticking over. That's all that we can manage. That's all that we're interested in. I don't have other resources in the business to do anything else. So just keep it ticking over. I don't want to have to worry about it. I've got others where we've got that, and that's been the starting place. And then we've turned into getting a couple of employees on. And then there's somewhere we don't do any company page at all. Like, no matter how much I say, yeah, you've got to, they're just like, we don't have it, the resources to manage it all. So if push came to shove and someone said to me, where would I spend what my time spent on LinkedIn? Of course, you're probably going to put more into the personal side if you're after reach and engagement. But again, it depends on the business goals. So I think we're totally aligned. It's how long is a piece of string is our answer, because that is genuinely what it is. Now, if I move into the next question, again, you and I haven't had a conversation about this, but let's talk about the new AI features on LinkedIn. I'm going to call it this segment the good, the bad, and the ugly. What are your views on AI and the new things that LinkedIn are bringing in specifically on the platform? Where do you sit? Have you liked it, not liked it? What's working for your clients? Yeah, just curious what your thoughts are.
Okay, you may have noticed the phrase AI has never popped up in my feed. You're talking to the wrong guy here. I don't hate AI. There's a lot of things I really dislike about AI. The main thing I dislike about AI is its plagiarism of other people's work. So I know that potentially stuff that I've written that's out there, yeah, okay, it's out there on my website, it's out there on LinkedIn, it's on wherever it is. And AI is scraping my content, your content, all of our content, and then compiling it together. And we don't get any credit for that at all because they don't really know where it's come from either. So from that perspective, that's my big beef with AI. I really don't like that at all. On the other hand, somebody sent me, I'm going to a lunch today and they wanted bio, and they sent me some text and said, does this sum you up? And I was like, yeah, that's really good. Did you write that? So it was AI scraped my profile and wrote a really cool bio about me. So, they're sort of my views on AI. But when you're talking about AI on LinkedIn, I think you're talking about when we're asked to comment on certain posts and what do we think about this, that, and the other. It's interesting because some of the suggestions I get are quite relevant, but some are way off key, really, really off key. And I did start thinking, okay, I'm going to respond to some of these. So I started and I wrote my comments and my thoughts on these different posts, but I don't know what's happened to that information. I don't know who's seen that information. Nobody has come to me and said, oh, I really liked your thoughts on this post. So I have no idea. And it's what's the point? Why have you asked me to comment on this AI post, but you're not telling me why I'm doing it. You're not telling me who's reading it. You're not telling me the results of what I've done. So why would I waste my time on something I don't know the outcome?
I assume what you're talking about is those collaborative articles because I'm on team
Yeah.
anti-collaborative articles. I'm
Yeah.
throwing it out there. Why am I anti it? For me, it's like such a distraction. I get no credit. You get all of my IP, you being LinkedIn land. And like you said, it disappears. And from what I can see, everyone gets super excited if they get to have a little badge next to their name. I just personally don't care about it. I have got better places I can invest my time on the platform. I have seen these AI tools that have popped up and prompts about helping with headlines and about sections. Do you have any comments on those?
Well, again, who are we helping? Why are we doing this? If I want to help somebody with their headline and their about section, then come to me and let's have a conversation. Let's look at your profile and I can help you with that. If I want to write an article or a post about how to write a smacking headline or your about section, then I'll do that and I'll do it in my time when I want to do it. And I don't feel I need the prompts. I don't feel they're necessary. And as you say, LinkedIn are just taking our information.
I've found like I played with it. I love to try and see what it will help with. And I tried to find the use case for it. So if I was new to LinkedIn and not good at writing, would AI helping me write a headline be helpful? I would say yes, but for the quality that it outputs, I was like, wow, if you couldn't write better than that yourself, I think we're in trouble because it's not great. That's the nice way of putting it. I have had some thoughts about it, and some people reached out and said, look, using tools like AI help dyslexic people form their thoughts and write their words, and it makes life easier for them. Or I can see maybe English is a second language and it helps other people like that. So I can see some upside and I'm mindful of those kind of things. But I just feel like everyone will end up just being Dolly the sheep. We're going to clone person after person when we're all fighting to stand out and be different, which is where my concern is. I love the idea of it being helpful. Again, in my mind, AI is there to help, but I'm not sure it literally is doing that so much or if it's hindering most of us more than anything.
I think it's impeding creativity and personality. And it's like, I work very closely with CEOs, C-suite, just with their personal profiles. And they come to me and they say, will you write my profile for me? I said, no, we work together. And it's because it's about you. It's about your personality. It's about who you are. And if I did write somebody's, I've done a couple of writing people's own profiles, but I ask them so many questions and find out really why the depth behind what they're doing, because it's about our personalities and that's what our profiles should be. So if I had 100 people came to me and said, will you write my profile? With all the best will in the world, they're going to look similar because I've written them. So no, I genuinely feel it's about we need to show ourselves. And that's what people are buying. That's who people are doing business with or recommending and referring. So it's so important that we are ourselves on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's no way that at this point in time, the AI tools don't have your experience or your history in your career. They also don't know your personality, what your values are. The storytelling element that you mentioned earlier is so critical right now because that's part of what bonds us as humans, but it also is what distinguishes us from the robots, from the carbon copies, from the clones. And so for me, sometimes LinkedIn feels it's like this big game of lemmings where people are just going to follow each other off the cliff. And I'm like, where are you going? Stop and think. Or if I see another post about oh, I've reverse engineered all of the creators' headlines, or I've reverse engineered all of the best influencers' hook lines. And then all that happens is they become templated. And then it's okay. So you wrote a carbon copy of someone else's post, you changed one word and then said, oh, it's mine. I'm being creative. Like that presses my buttons so much. And I've had to get out of some of those circles. I've ended up connected to some people. No, that's called plagiarism. And
Yeah.
there's, again, these tools, automation tools, making that possible. Here's the viral post. Like, just go and change one word. It's a template. No, you copied someone else's work. But anyway, let's just say, let's go back to employee advocacy, getting employees out there. Let's just say you've got that 20 minutes that someone's starting off. If you had to give someone advice about where they should spend that 20 minutes in the best way possible, what would you recommend?
Oh, good one. So 930 something million people on LinkedIn. It's busy out there, really, really busy. And you can spend a lot of time, as I say, hanging out in the kitchen at the party. So just talking to your friends, engaging with your friends, which is nice because I'm very much about we need to enjoy what we're doing and have fun. But if we really want to grow the business and if we really want to grow our personal profiles, it's about being targeted. So my tip is if there are certain people on LinkedIn you really want to see their content, then ring their bell, engage in their content, and you're going to get their content in your feed and you'll get the notifications as to when they've posted. So I scroll through my notifications and I get the notifications of the people that I've rung their bell has posted, and I'll go straight there and comment on their posts. So it's a very targeted approach. The other thing is the search bar at the top. It's so pale, it's so small, but it's live. And I think this is the platinum or diamond of LinkedIn, this search bar and all of the sections that you can niche down, saving your searches, saving the URLs of your searches makes life so much easier. So if you do a search, save the URL because you can't save searches anymore, which is really frustrating because you used to be able to do that. And really target who it is that you're communicating with on LinkedIn and comment on posts. And I say, try and comment on 5 posts a day and comment with value. So you talked earlier about the 3 C's. I have 4 C's for commenting. So the first one is to give a compliment. This is interesting. Congratulations. I really like what you said here. The second C is to add a comment where you add your value. So in my experience, this has happened. I've seen this happen there. Oh, I did this and this happened. So add some value, but don't show off. So compliment, comment, conversation, use open-ended language, ask questions, try and get a conversation going in somebody else's feed. Okay, you don't get the credit as far as the algorithm is concerned because it's not on your post. You're building that relationship and then go over and connect with that person. So that's the 4th C. So even if you do that on one post a day, you're adding value in other people's feeds and loads of other people will see your comment. So all the followers and connections of the person whose content you're commenting on are likely, and they do see that. So commenting in a targeted way, I think is a really valuable use of time and connecting with people. So if you can comment on 5 posts a day and connect with 2 people a day, that's quite a low bar, but it's a consistent and realistic way, I think, that you can really make traction on LinkedIn.
I think that's brilliant. It's a ditto for me. There's nothing that I would recommend any different. I think they're the types of actions that build relationships and nurture relationships and get you discovered in your industry. And I think the word targeted is so important when you want to be efficient on LinkedIn. Now, the sad part is I've gone way over time, but it's also a miracle that I have somehow stopped us from talking all day because I would want to. I appreciate everything that you've shared today with the audience. Do you have one last quick actionable tip that people could take away today? And then I'm going to wrap this thing up. But yeah, it's just been such a good conversation. And yeah, what's your one last actionable tip?
Oh, don't be frightened. Don't be frightened of LinkedIn. So many people come to me and they say, I don't know what to post about. I'm worried that I'll write something and put it out on LinkedIn and people are going to attack me or my boss isn't going to like it or whatever. Be yourself. and don't be frightened because LinkedIn, yes, okay, it's an open platform, but it's about being you. And that's the most important thing.
What a fabulous way to end this show. Sarah Clay, I appreciate all the time that you've given today and all of the brilliant tips that people will be able to take away about what's working and what's not working on LinkedIn for B2B at the moment. So I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody that has joined us live and is listening to the podcast. Until next week, cheers.